has a chance, right, has a BA in anthropology or related field, right? And they probably have decent grades, right? It ranges, but they probably have decent grades, and they probably made the minimum GRE scores, right? So you need to distinguish yourself. And hanging your hat on the fact that you took some class is not going to do it. It's not going to do it, right? No one cares what specific. I mean, we care a little bit. I mean, we care in that, like, if you want to study Mesoamerican archaeology, it's nice that you had a Mesoamerican archaeology class. But frankly, so are 30 other people who applied for that one spot as a grad, you know, to get into that grad program. So what's going to be really important is you worked in a lab, you worked at you interned at the Museum of Man, you worked at collections here and you did analysis, you went out in the field and did this, the coastal survey, and you have these other experiences that make you very unique, right? And so I used to, when I was a student, you know, as an MA and a PhD student and an early career academic, I used to list all my field projects. I'm not doing that anymore because I go in the field 5-6 times a year and it would just be out of control. So, you know, so I list sort of my research interests for my overall projects, but you guys should have that on there, right? And that really sets you apart. That's the really big thing, I think. And that shows doing stuff like that and the stuff the club is doing, that you are all, or many of you are doing as part of the club, shows that you want to be a grad student and you want to do research. That's what committees are looking for and faculty members are looking for. Yeah, you got to have good grades. We want you to have classes, but I mean, for the most part, whatever your MA project, I'm sorry I'm rattling on, but whatever your MA project or your PhD project is going to be, you're probably not going to have taken a class on it, right? Because presumably it's original research that no one's done exactly that, so you're not going to have a class exactly on that, right? So,
yeah, definitely. And yeah, anytime you can highlight any experience, any lab work, any field work. Yeah.
I had a question. So, like courses, like method courses, would that go into the CV?
so I mean, I would. So for you guys, for under education, right? See where I have kind of my stuff there. You know, I might do something like put, instead of, because you guys won't have like thesis or dissertation titles, you could put critical classes or something like that, and then list the names of those classes. Not the Anthro 349, Roots of Civilization, right? Comma, because no one knows what those numbers mean, right? You got to think this. Someone's reading this, it doesn't know what Anthro 103 means.
And be strategic too about some of the ones like that you put on there. You're going to want to highlight, you know, some key classes to show like where your emphasis are strong areas.
Right. If you're doing Mayan archaeology is what you're applying to go to grad school to study, right? Probably, you know, I don't know, human sexuality is not the class that highlights your ability to be a Mayan archaeologist, right? Mesoamerican prehistory does, so, and you would list that as a critical class, right? So you got to kind of think. I mean, you could look at a lot of examples. You got to think through, like, you know, who are you? What do you want to do? What's your academic life gonna look like? And that's the CV, right? That's your academic life. It tells your academic story. So for those of you who are, you know, not doing that route, I mean, the resume becomes probably the most important document. But again, I would have a CV just in case.
Yeah. Keep it building. Yeah. The other one, so for how many of you, like, does any of this sound intimidating at all for any of you when we're talking about, okay.
Yeah.
So this is another conversation I've had with a few of you here already. And this is sort of, like, sometimes I'll ask a question like, okay, so do you have any field experience, right? And then I'll have a student say, well, you know, I guess kind of I took part in like that coastal survey thing, and I guess that was kind of field experience. And I'll say, okay, just stop right there. So let me ask that question again. Do you have any field experience? Yes, I've done survey work on a coastal survey project in Southern California, focusing on X, Y, and Z. And there's a big difference. And that translates to interviews and all kinds of other stuff. Oh, do you have any lab experience? Well, I guess like, you know, like a couple semesters I was in Dr. Braje's lab at San Diego State. No, the answer is yes, yes. I've worked in a lab at a research university under this professor. What kind of stuff do? You list it out.
Yeah,
Here and there.
I find the same thing. It's like you guys don't realize, like sometimes I think, that what you've done, right? Most students aren't doing this. Most students aren't coming to clubs like this. They aren't doing coastal surveys, and they're not working in labs. And, you know, a 5-hour coastal survey, that is a ton of experience. That is a ton of experience. Just learning what archaeological sites look like, how to do a pedestrian survey. I mean, most students at your level don't do that, so talk it up.
Yeah, and then like if there's certain experience you see others have, right? There's ways to get in and do that kind of stuff, whether it's through sometimes strategic volunteering or whatever. But there's ways to get field experience. There's various ways to do this.
What if like your interest is not archaeological? Like, would you still name that you went to an archaeological site even though it has nothing to do with what you're interested in?
I mean, I would put it on my CV, right? I would put that field experience, because if you're doing anthropology, right, any of the subfields are relevant, right? So if someone's interviewing you, that might not be the first thing you talk about, right? So, you know, I would think about what other experiences you have that might be relevant to, you know, if you, I don't know, if you're interested in working with migrant communities and you volunteer, you work at, you know, one of the many NGOs here in town that help sort of immigrant communities and
IRC, the International Youth Community.
Yeah, there's Border Angels. There's a few.
Yeah, I mean, that would all be sort of real life work. I mean, that would be field experience to me.
And that, like, your question is a case too where you can be strategic, and sometimes you don't realize that if you've taken, done some field work beginning to end, there is, whether it's archaeological, bio, or cultural anthropology, it can translate. It may not be the top thing that you bring up depending on that job, but it's still field experience. And a lot of times, I mean, it depends on the job. This can be, that you can talk about, hey, I've done this, I've been in the field.
Put that on your CV, but not on your resume.
It would depend on the job, and you might need to be strategic about it. It may depend on the job, but I mean, like some of these government kind of jobs that I've looked at where they're kind of this hybrid, there can be cases where you can say, yeah, look, I've got these various kind of field experiences, and out of those, I've gotten these kinds of skills, right? So in archaeological field work, this is another case where just being a part of the organization of projects, you're learning things and you're doing things, and don't devalue any of that stuff. But that would be a case of like being strategic. It would depend on the job, on what you highlight, what aspect of a field project you highlight.
Yeah, I mean, I when I was an undergrad, I thought I wanted to be a cultural anthropologist, right? And I focused all my classwork, all my sort of field experiences on cultural anthropology, and then I went off into the Peace Corps and got interested more in archaeology and sort of developed some of those interests. Came back, did a little archaeology field work, and got into a PhD program to do archaeology. So things change, right? And all that was relevant, all
I was
that
the
cultural
opposite.
stuff. Oh yeah, you were the opposite.
That was archaeology.
Yeah. So and people do that all the time. Yeah, especially we don't expect. I don't think most faculty expect folks at as undergrads to know what they want to do for their PhD. I mean, even within the subfield, I mean, things change. But it's, do you have relevant experience? And that can be broadly defined.
So then, in the other part, it's beyond the sort of CV resume thing, there's often another document that comes with both sides of it. So if you're applying to grad school, it's going to be a statement of intent or statement of purpose. There's different titles for it. And Dr. Braje mentioned this, if you're applying to a job, it's not all the time, but quite frequently they're going to want a cover letter. And in both cases with these documents, you want to be concise. They do not want a 9-page letter. I mean, 3, like, max.
And that letter, I mean, that is a critical letter, right? Statement of purpose or cover letter. I mean, I know I just got done saying the resume and CV are, but they're all critical. But I mean, they're going to read that, and if you, like for me, right? So on my website, I have a link on my website about for prospective students on tips on how to write a statement of purpose. And so I would encourage you to look at that. It's fairly brief. I would encourage you to look at, there's got to be stuff on the interwebs about how to write a statement of purpose. I would get people to look at it. I would get faculty to sort of help you proof it. Frankly, for me, and I think this is for most people, and I describe this on my website, I don't want to hear about how when you were 7 years old, you saw Indiana Jones and you always wanted to be an archaeologist. I could care less. Like, I don't care what your childhood dreams are. And I'm sorry if that's like harsh, but I want to know why you're a good fit for San Diego State University and the graduate program. That is what I care about. What's your experience? Why are you a good fit? What are you broadly interested in? How does that fit in with what I do? That's what I care about, right? So, I mean, it doesn't tell me anything to know your life history, right? So, and I get it all the time. I get statements of, what do you call them? Statements of purpose, yeah, whatever, that are just like these narratives about a potential student's sort of life journey, and while touching. It's not how things are evaluated, right? I mean, it's not how, in my mind, good programs evaluate students, right?
So a lot of
the data.
Yeah, a lot of that too is kind of similar to so in academia, a lot of the tailoring is going to happen in that cover letter. So on your resume, you do your homework for the job and you tailor it. In academia, if you're applying to multiple grad schools, you really look at that department. Look at what they do, look at who's there, look at what you do, and then you got to be able to answer that question. And usually this is the punchline of it. You got to think of it as like you're making a case here, and that there's actually a beginning and there's sort of a conclusion there. And that end part is a good place to really nail down, why you, why here, who do you want to work with, and what do you want to do. I mean,
exactly. And so for example, this is how critical it is. If you're like, so you're sitting there, well, I'm going to apply to grad schools. I'm going to apply. I want to stay in the West, right? And I heard there's really good snow in Utah. I'd love to ski, so I'm going to apply to the University of Utah, right? You write a thing and you say, I want to be a cultural anthropologist, and I want to do what Dr. Anderson has inspired me to do, and work on sort of coastal cultural anthropology, right? And with indigenous communities, whatever. And then they're going to take your application and they're going to throw it in the trash, whatever they do with it, because there's not one cultural anthropologist at the University of Utah. There are no cultural anthropologists. So you wasted your time, and you wasted $75 in an application fee because you didn't know what they even do, right? You want to go to University of Utah? You better want to do evolutionary anthropology and use human behavioral ecology, and you better be either a biological anthropologist or an archaeologist, right? So you got to know the program, right? Do not apply to schools because you want to live in city X. Right? That is not the way to do it. You won't get in, right? You got to and faculty are the ones that can help you negotiate that. No one expects you to know what every program in the country does, and nor do we. But I know if you have similar interests to me, right? I know a lot of programs around the country that do similar things. and I know the differences, and I know a lot of the people. Anderson knows lots of people, lots of cultural anthropologists all over the country that do all sorts of different things and can point you in directions. So, I mean, use your faculty here as a resource. You got to be talking to people.
That was a point I wanted to bring up too, that I sort of learned a little late in the game, was the people that you have, like the department, whether you're in anthro department, whatever department you're in anthropology, get to know those people, and they've all gone through this process. And I try to tell students a lot, and some look at me like, I don't really want me to come to your office hours, but really go in there, because there's class, and then there's this whole other kind of component of things, and getting to talk through some of this stuff. This is what we do, right? Applying, I'm telling you, like cover letters, CVs, applying, looking into programs. That's the grad school thing, and you got to get good at it. And like you go through the process and you learn it. And one big lesson I learned was, I don't know if you see it the same way, but I used to focus, like when I went to grad school, I thought in terms of program, like oh, this school has a really good reputation, that, this. And I sort of went at it the wrong way. And now the advice I give out to people is think in terms of people who have time to work with incoming grad students and find ways to learn about that program, right? So a huge resource if you're looking into grad school are the current graduate students in that program. Huge. Now, I'm gonna give you like a little bit of an important piece here. Graduate students are not the happiest lot on the planet. They're just not, right? It's just graduate students. So what you need to do is you're gonna have to learn when you get a sense of a program, you're gonna have to learn a little bit about, okay, sounds like it's totally always raining for this particular individual. So you're gonna have to learn to like differentiate a little bit. Because what you wanna know, there's key things you wanna know. One, are people moving through the program? Huge. And in some programs, that is not the case. You wanna know, and you wanna ask this kind of stuff. Two, you wanna get a sense of, like, I tell students all the time about funding, don't be shy about it. Don't be rude about it, be businesslike about it. What's the funding situation? You can ask this kind of stuff. There's often an administrator that you contact, but you can also ask grad students funding, like moving through the program, what's the funding situation? And then I don't know, I mean, this is the way I've done it. I often tell people to try to get in touch with different programs and see if different people are taking on students for that year. Because the thing is, you could be applying for, so-and-so famous cultural anthropologist or archaeologist, and they have 19 students and they are not taking on anybody for 2 years. And that's another case where, because you've tailored it to them, you're not gonna get looked at. So you can actually, you can learn a lot, and you have to be, kind of strategic about it, but you can learn a lot from a program by just trying to contact a few people. And I tell people, like, it's a bit of a sign if you email somebody and there's absolutely no time to even email you back, you may be looking at a bit of an impacted program.
Right. And I mean, there is access, right? Issues. So some faculty interact with their graduate students a lot, others don't. You might want to know this.
Yeah.
I send, like, it is better, like, the students who contact me before they apply and we have a phone conversation, they email me, we set up a phone conversation and I talk to them and, we find we have overlapping interests. The ones who do that are more likely to get in, right, to this program. And how most programs do it is basically you have to have a faculty that sponsors you to get into that program. So you need to be contacting people you want to work with. And all those people who contact me, I give them the emails of all my current grad students and say, you should talk to my current grad students. They will give you an idea of how I mentor them and whether they find it to be good or bad, right? And they talk to them without me knowing what is said, right? Because I want them to come in eyes wide open. I have a way that I mentor students. It works for some, it doesn't work for others. You need to figure out whether it works for you. And I can tell you, so when I applied to programs like Dr. Anderson, I did it wrong, right? I looked at a list of the top 20 ranked anthropology programs in the country, and I applied down those programs. So a little selectively, I looked at which ones do what, and had good archaeologists working in the areas I was interested in working in. So I applied to 11 of those top 20 programs. That's what I did. And I got to the place, I went to the second highest ranked program that I got into, and I was miserable for 2 years. And I realized what I did wrong, that I need to better figure out who my advisor is going to be and how that advisor mentors students. And I transferred to a new place to finish out my PhD and was very, very happy for the rest of my time. Part of it is knowing how miserable you could be, and then all the misery that happened at the other places didn't seem that bad. So
because a lot of the unhappiness in grad school is actually that mismatch.
Yeah. And
then people, it is something to look into, right? And you want to look, like in your case, like you had a good mentor that you worked with, right?
Mm-hmm. And I got to a PhD.
Yeah.
Not original.
So this is the other thing, is sometimes when applying, I was definitely the case where I was looking at prestige of the school sort of thing as my, I don't know, UC Berkeley, Kroger was there. I didn't have the greatest rationale in some cases. And Paul Ravenel happens to be there too. Look for individuals. And then with those individuals, look at what they do. Is that what I want to do? And then try to get in touch with them. Try to get a sense of, do you think it's a working relationship and it's going to be going for a while? So take the time to look into that. And you don't have to be super timid about it. Just be sort of confident and try to get in touch with people. And
send professional emails.
Yeah. And if you get no response, to me that's information. That'll tell you a little bit of how grad school may be under that person.
Right. And that doesn't mean that you can make the decision on whether you want to move forward with applying, but that might be how it is, right? And generally grad students' emails are up online, and you can email those students and get some insider perspective on the program. I mean, like